There's intelligent life out there.
Glad they got it somewhere.
The Martians are coming. But as in about 99% of movies about the arrival of Martians,
there's Martians everywhere.
They aren't bringing a loaf of their own freshly baked sourdough, which, since I haven't had lunch yet, does make me wonder about that remaining 1% of movies, you know, the little-known trilogy of the Red Planet Boulangerie franchise. But in the higher gravity, lower carb world of Earth,
don't run, we are your friends.
Things aren't going so well for anyone when Mars attacks.
Get out now.
The 1996 film Mars Attacks, directed by Tim Burton, is a darkly comic alien invasion film that mixes the grotesque, the satirical, and the barbecued. If you are remotely squeamish, it is very easy to recommend that you skip the film and probably the rest of this video.
It's gross.
But do come back another day when we have something, you know, less splatty. Have they gone? Good. Mars Attacks was a PG-13 rated film, though that doesn't prevent it from pushing the envelope of how much you could get away with in a PG-13 film. It's in part a homage to 50s alien invasion movies and 70s disaster films, and of all things, it's based on a trading card set. It's one of those films where the all-star cast is so all-star that it's easy just to refer to most of the characters by the names of the star playing them. Well, partly because it's easier for me, and partly because it really annoys at least one frequent viewer of this channel. You know who you are. So cool. Bill 83, 67, 98, 32, 43, 54, 29, 70. It's the sort of film with an all-star cast that becomes progressively less all-starry as it goes along.
Jesus Christ.
Jack Nicholson plays the president, Glenn Close plays his wife, and Natalie Portman their daughter. Jack Nicholson also plays a sleazy property developer in Vegas. That's a completely different character in this context, obviously.
I'm not a crook.
His wife is a recovering alcoholic and a new age hippie played by Annette. Pam Grier drives a bus in Washington, D.C. and has two sons who'd rather be playing light gun games rather than going to school. While their ex-boxing dad, played by Jim Brown, greets people at a Las Vegas casino dressed as a pharaoh. Lukas Haas plays Richie, and he's the only person that will refer to by their character's name. Mainly because Bill 83, 67, 98, 32, 43, 54, 29, 70 really just gives me the shits. Richie works at a donut store, and he's the underappreciated second son of the family. And he's the only member of the family who's at all worried about their slightly loopy grandmother. His older moron brother is played by Jack Black, and his girlfriend is Christina Applegate, and their dad is Joe Don Baker. Now that's the father of Jack Black and Lukas Haas, not Jack Black and Christina Applegate. Though, based on where this is set, that's not 100% certainty. Michael J. Fox is a news reporter who's gazumped for big stories by his ditzy girlfriend, Sarah Jessica Parker, who's excited when she thinks she's being flirted with by government scientific advisor, Pierce Brosnan. Martin Short is a White House spokesman who takes his government limo curb crawling. Rod Steiger and Paul Winfield are generals. One of them is angry and ready to nuke an ingrown toenail. The other is just very quiet and doesn't say very much, no matter how much the toenail hurts. A Martian fleet has been detected as it approaches Earth, and some people are excited by the idea, and others just go about their usual day-to-day routine. When the Martians do land in the desert, first contact seems to be going okay until a bird appears, and then all hell breaks loose. The president tries to calm things down by inviting the Martian ambassador to speak to Congress, but again with the zapping. Human scientists examine the Martian corpses while Martians experiment on Pierce Brosnan and Sarah Jessica Parker. By now you've worked out that this is a film that doesn't worry about whether you should, just whether you could. And they could, but did they really need to? The Martians send a disguised assassin to the White House, though it's never really explained why they need to send an assassin rather than just a couple of flying saucer death ships. The plan to kill the president in his sleep doesn't work out. The aliens return to the White House in force, where the evacuation doesn't go so well for the First Lady. However, the aliens are sorted out by Pam Grier's two video game-loving boys on a school trip.
What are you guys gawking at? Get that president out of here!
An all-out attack in Vegas sees Annette, Jim Brown, and all of a sudden, Danny DeVito and Tom Jones team up to get out of town on a private plane, since what invades Vegas stays in Vegas. Richie goes to rescue his grandmother, only to find that her choice of old-school country music makes the aliens' brains literally explode.
I think these guys are very sick.
Which apparently is not all that far off the actual effect of country music. That's it, they just play yodeling singer Slim Whitman's version of Indian Love Call on loudspeakers, which kills the aliens nice and quickly so we can wrap this all up. People start to clean up. Annette Bening and Tom Jones go back to nature. Natalie Portman gives Richie a medal, he makes a clumsy speech, and everybody still alive starts to rebuild. And the cast start thinking about how many boats they can buy if they appear in a sequel to what must be a huge hit. Huzzah!
You know how to fly a plane?
Sure, you got one?
She has.
Mars Attacks is a film seemingly designed to take the brainwaves of a 12-year-old boy in the 1990s and turn it into a major motion picture.
What the hell does that mean?
There's not much plot or story, there's lots of action and special effects, there's a dog's head on Sarah Jessica Parker's body, simplistic characters who you don't really care if they live or die, and if you did care about them, you get to watch them die anyway.
Why'd it have to be him?
It's basically Tim Burton pulling the wings off flies, the movie.
I know this seems terrible, but let's not be too rash.
Mars Attacks is a unique film, if only because of where it came from. A very large proportion of Hollywood feature films are based on something else. Whether it's a remake of an earlier film, a remake of a foreign film, an adaptation of a book or a play, a television show, a comic, a video game, a board game, and of course films based on theme park attractions. And then we have Mars Attacks, which was based on a set of trading cards.
Do you know anyone who can fly a plane?
Yeah, your husband Art.
No, he's dead.
In 1962, Topps released the Mars Attacks set of trading cards, where cards showed painted scenes of a Martian invasion. It being the early 60s, there were people who deemed some of the scenes depicted to be suggestive or gory, which probably added to their mystique with the target audience. They were popular enough for a time, and the original cards would become huge collector's items. There had already been moves to make a feature version directed by Alex Cox in the mid-80s, but eventually that project stalled. In the early 90s, writer Jonathan Gems had done some work for Tim Burton, and he brought up the idea of turning trading cards like Mars Attacks into a movie. Burton, whose work often pushed the limits of horror and the grotesque, liked the idea, and eventually Warner Brothers snapped up the rights for Burton to direct. Tim Burton liked the 70s disaster movie element, using the all-star movie Towering Inferno as a template. A film that would keep the audience guessing as to which big stars would survive to the end of the movie and which ones weren't going to be asked back for any potential sequel. Burton, who was making his biopic of Ed Wood at the time, liked the idea of something that harkened back to classic 50s alien invasion movies, something closer to War of the Worlds or Earth versus the Flying Saucers than Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Shouldn't we go this way?
Sorry, man. There's a tour going through here.
We've already gone through most of the cast. They're known from other things, but there are a few other people, like Lisa Marie, who was Tim Burton's partner at the time. And there's also voice artist Frank Welker. He's the voice of literally everything that's non-verbal, whether it's Scooby-Doo, the Gremlins, and here, the Martians who sound like a diseased duck. Danny Elfman would provide a very fitting score, full of melodramatic notes like you'd expect from a 50s science fiction movie, and of course, a theremin sound. During its planning stages, Mars Attacks looked like it could go very expensive, though Warner Brothers put down its foot to avoid costs spiraling out of control.
I'm glad somebody did.
At the time, the studio expected a film that would cost in the vicinity of around $60 million, instead of one that cost upwards of, and the technical term is, $20 gazillion. Burton and company got out their red pencils and they cut the screenplay down to a more manageable size.
Die, you alien shithead!
The script was tightened with something like 2/3 of the characters cut and the number of locations reduced, leaving the bulk of the action taking place in either Washington DC, Kansas or Las Vegas. Burton, with its history in animation, had originally wanted to realise the aliens through stop motion, to the point where teams of stop motion animators had spent several months working on Mars Attacks. However, with Warner going through the budget line by line, the Martian tourists wound up being created using computer animation at ILM. Other FX vendors created the flying saucers and the robot. But in 1996, there was still a lot of practical effects in a movie like this. But of course, as the decade wore on, as software improved, computing hardware improved, and people's confidence increased, more and more major special effects films would be made using computer-generated effects. The special effects in Mars Attacks hold up in a cartoonish sort of way, where a lot of it has dated, but yet it still suits the type of over-the-top humour in the film.
Nice shot.
Yeah. Pity I was too late.
Mars Attacks was released late in 1996. That was a year where Twister and Independence Day had ruled the box office. Mars Attacks, which had cost in the region of $100 million to make and market, barely made the same amount back at the box office. Now that's easily a flop when you remember that 100% of the box office does not go to a film's producers.
Shit.
At the time of its release, the reviews were mixed, with criticism of its bleak humour being a common theme. But like pretty much anything else that's underappreciated at the time of release, Mars Attacks would eventually find an appreciative audience. I mean, not enough for it to be considered a hit, it's just that the movie would find its fans. What grossed out the critics was beloved by the same 13-year-olds who saw this sort of thing in their heads every day. Of course, Bill 83, 67, 98, 32, 43, 54, 29, 70 is a huge fan of Mars Attacks.
Do you got a girlfriend?
Me, I had skipped this film for a very, very, very long time, but for no real reason that I can remember. I just never got around to watching Mars Attacks. Although I really like about 3/4 of Tim Burton's projects, Mars Attacks is not one of those.
I need a drink.
You and me both, baby.
I like bits of it, and there's a lot of stuff I didn't like. Personally, it's maybe, 50-50 on the good and the bad.
But don't you dare let this happen again.
It's got a very good cast playing slightly arch characters, it has enjoyable enough special effects, but it's also quite nasty in places, and to me it just goes a little overboard with the gross out stuff.
We will look equally gross to him.
I'm not necessarily alone in that assessment, but for others it's just something they've come to love.
Why can't we all just get along?
Watching it now, the human characters are almost entirely incredibly annoying, where it's not really hard to care if they live or die. They're arch and satirical and a little predictable. But it's the Martians that are genuinely funny in a Looney Tunes sort of way. They're just not on screen long enough. Mars Attacks, coming out only a few months after Independence Day's stonking box office performance, probably didn't do Tim Burton's film too many favours. It was already well into production when Roland Emmerich's film was released, but once it was out, Mars Attacks was very much considered to be the lesser of the two big alien invasion films of 1996.
Isn't the universe big enough for both of us?
And perhaps, for some at least, Mars Attacks was just not as much fun.
You bet.
The film's relatively poor performance didn't really hurt the cast all that much, many of whom went on to even bigger things. Burton's career would rebound with Sleepy Hollow and the financially successful but critically poorly received reimagining of Planet of the Apes. Though more often than not, he'd tend to stick to quirkier, gothic-themed projects that skirted the edges of horror. Mars Attacks is, well, for me, it's an okay film. It's enjoyable enough. It's just not enough for me to think about rewatching it anytime soon. You, of course, might have a different view, which is fine by me.
Whoa.
So I'll leave my Mars Attacks DVD with you for safekeeping. Do with it what you will. If you enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, or check out some of our other videos.
I'll tell you one thing, any of them Martians come around here, I'm gonna kick their butts.